Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of The Cards Court, the number one weekly Ball State basketball show in the world. I'm your host, Griffin Leonard. Joining me this week as my co-host is Evan Stowell, and joining us later on the show will be Sidelines Ball State superfan, also known as Rob Calhoun. But with that, the court is now in session. Evan, thanks for joining me this week. How you doing?
Griffin, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk Ball State hoops.
Well, it was an interesting week in Ball State basketball, both the men's and the women's teams squaring off this week. The Ball State men's basketball team hit the road on Tuesday and got beat pretty badly against a pretty good Little Rock, Arkansas team. They beat them 90-64, and their shooting was absolutely outstanding in that game. But Ball State men's basketball responded. They got a big win at home on Saturday against the Bellarmine Knights. That game was back and forth, and for a while we weren't really sure who was going to get it done, but Ball State in front of 3,500 got the win on Saturday, and then Ball State going on the road with a big rebound win against the St. Louis Billikens out in Missouri. Evan, let's talk Ball State men's basketball first. That win Saturday was huge, but it really took until the last couple of minutes for Ball State to really be sure that they were going to get the victory.
Yeah, it was a close game throughout, and it was one of those back-and-forth matchups. It almost felt like a boxing match at times, just the way that the two teams went back and forth at each other. But the Cardinals were able to pull away there towards the end of the game. They held Bellarmine to just 41% from the field, and Bellarmine came into that game. They're a pretty good shooting team. Normally they're able to shoot a three-pointer pretty well. Bellarmine 1 for 5 from the three-point line in the first half, 2 for 11 for the whole game. So they just didn't shoot the 2 for 11 in the second half, and then 3 for 16 for the whole game. Bellarmine did not shoot the ball well from the three-point arc, and that is probably what cost them the game.
Yeah, well, Bellarmine was missing a couple of their better players, but players like Landon Hatton, Bash Weiland, they stepped up and kept Bellarmine in this game, but in the end, Ball State was just too strong. Bashir Jihad going for a double-double, 19 points, 11 rebounds, and boy, was he efficient down low. Alongside Jalen Anderson, Ball State were missing Davion Bailey, who is out there in a boot and doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. I don't have any inside info on that, unfortunately, but all I can tell you is he wasn't on the court Saturday, but I hate to say that the Cardinals didn't need him, but I guess the better way to say it is that other people stepped up and filled that gap.
Yeah, the Cardinals definitely, filled in next man up mentality for this team. Bashir Jihad has really come in and looked like the guy on this Ball State squad this year. And then Jalen Anderson has been a fantastic compliment to him. He's a great passer. He's a good scorer. He had 16 points. I mean, those two guys have really stepped up and filled in some of the offensive load that was missing after some of their better players last year left. So Ball State looking good. They played really well. Bashir and Jalen both looked really good. And obviously it hurts that you don't have Davion Bailey, but when you have guys step up and you have freshmen like Mason Jones or Joey Brown get plenty of minutes and play well, that's a good sign for this team, because once Davion Bailey does come back, that's just going to make them that much stronger.
Well, and something Ball State has struggled to do this year is find bench production. I think one guy that we haven't mentioned yet that's really stepping up the last couple of games is Trent Middleton Jr., freshman, and he has looked good. 9 points in that last game. He's not afraid to shoot the three ball, and when the offense isn't rolling, it's good to get a guy off the bench and find avenues of production. But another thing to be excited about from a Ball State perspective, hitting their free throws, 16 for 18 in that game. You're going to need those free throws if you're going to hang around. Let's quickly turn our attention to women's basketball. It was a pretty good game against St. Louis. They had quite the break, Stowell. After the Notre Dame loss, it was interesting to see how the Cardinals were going to respond after that game, and it was close. It wasn't pretty, but Ball State got the job done in the end.
Yeah, they did. They managed to pull it out, and that was a big win for them just because of the fact that after that Notre Dame game, I mean, they lost 90-59. They played a really good Notre Dame squad, one of the best teams in the country. They needed a bounce-back performance, so it was good for them to get that done.
Yeah, Ball State continue their month-long road trip, but we'll talk more about that later on in the show. First, we're going to go to a break. When we get back, we will have our special guest of the episode, Mr. Rob Calhoun, also known as Sidelines Ball State. He'll join us, talk about his history with Ball State and his reaction to how these seasons have gone so far. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Cards Court. It's presented by Victory Honda Muncie here on the SportsLink Digital Radio Network.
To catch the best stories in Ball State sports every month, tune in to the award-winning show, SportsLink Stories, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie. Victory Honda of Muncie is proud to support the creative storytellers of Ball State SportsLink.
Welcome back to the Cards Court. Griffin Leonard alongside Evan Stowell, and our guest now joins us, Mr. Rob Calhoun, better known as Sidelines Ball State. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, welcome to be here. Thank you.
So you are one of the, I would say, the most vocal fans on Ball State Twitter, and I would assume that is because you have longstanding ties to Ball State. Could you kind of talk about why you first fell in love with the school and where that fandom comes from?
Absolutely. I came to Ball State around 1998 and was here till the early 2000s. And then, classic story, met a girl, got married, stayed in Muncie. And since then, we've stayed really in touch with Ball State and, started buying season tickets, whatever that was, 20 plus years ago. Then had kids, started buying them season tickets and, to different sporting events, mainly basketball, football. And it's just been a great way to spend family time together while doing something we all enjoy in Muncie, which can sometimes be hard to find, great entertainment at a good value or whatever. I mean, it's just, sports are a big part of our family.
I know a lot of people who come to the school grow up as fans of another school, like IU, Purdue, maybe Illinois, depending on where they're from.
Absolutely.
Did you also have that same sort of upbringing of rooting for a different school? And regardless of if you did, why did you latch on to Ball State as much as you have?
I did. I was a Notre Dame fan growing up in northern Indiana. And once we got student tickets, I started following recruiting. And I just kind of fell in love with everything recruiting. And from following that, you get a high school kid, he comes in, and then you watch him mature and, you watch how he develops. And then, you just delve deeper and deeper and deeper into everything, and you meet more people, and, it kind of becomes a family atmosphere and aspect of it.
Yeah, you talk about recruiting. Is that something that really is one of the big reasons you love sports, is just like the human aspect behind it?
I do. I like human aspect, storylines, that it gives you another reason to watch the games other than purely result driven. And it gives you a more, like you're more tied in because you know more about it than just a name or
Well, and obviously here at SportsLink, we tell a lot of those stories and try to humanize the athletes. Talking about Ball State men's basketball, the Jalen Anderson story just came out.
Yes.
Part of the men's basketball broadcast yesterday. But talking about men's basketball, what are your general thoughts on just how the season's gone so far? Obviously, a lot of question marks coming into this season. Michael Lewis' second year. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts on basketball this year is it's almost impossible to replace what we lost last year through the portal and all that. I mean, you just can't make 3 All-MAC players appear out of nowhere. But, I mean, through the portal, we've been able to bring in Jalen and Davion and all that, and I've thought so far that they've been able to make an impact, and I think as long as we keep playing together, I think that will tend to get better. And you can't mention this year without mentioning the emergence of Big Ben Hendricks. I mean, he's becoming a crowd favorite right in front of us, so big shout out to Ben if you're listening.
I remember the tweet I saw a week or two ago now. It was the Poutine tweet.
Absolutely.
You got to fill everybody in on that story if they're not familiar.
Well, Canada's national dish is poutine, and I'm Ben steps out, out of nowhere, comes out and, puts on a really good performance. And, I was like, well, what more can we do to, honor something like that? So, we had Poutine and honor Ben's, great. What else you going to do at 10 o'clock at night?
I love it. I love it.
My question is, well, you mentioned you're a Notre Dame fan. Do you still kind of root for Notre Dame?
I couldn't tell you anything about them.
And then my second question is, you talk about the emergence of Ben Hendricks and how we lost a lot of players in the portal last year. How about the emergence of Bashir Jihad? He's looked so good this season.
He has. I mean, that's kind of been, just watching him from more of a, out around the three guy, out the 3-point area to taking more, giving us a presence down low where we lost a lot. That's been great. He keeps up. I think he can get stronger. I think he can develop more. And then when he does slide out to the top of the key, he's quicker than the guy on him. So a lot of times you've seen, him able to get to the basket where guys can't, hold him there. So all in all, good things. I mean, I think the team as a whole has to get a bit tougher before MAC play because the MAC's a grind every year. It's hard.
Well, we'll talk more about MAC play and some other topics when we get back from this break. You're listening to the Cards Court here on SL Digital Radio, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie.
Victory Honda of Muncie. We're not just another car dealership, and here's why. We stand behind every car we sell and are dedicated to helping our customers save time and money. All our pre-owned cars undergo a rigorous 182-point inspection and come with a 90-day warranty to ensure that you're getting a Victory quality vehicle. Plus, you'll get 2 years of complimentary oil changes and tire rotations. We're part of a top 15 dealership group and have an enormous selection of vehicles with access to inventory at over 45 locations. You always get more for your trade and the best possible rates with us. We have an excellent relationship with hundreds of lenders. Our exclusive Car Doc maintenance and membership program will help you save hundreds of dollars in the process of maintaining your vehicle. Lastly, our state-of-the-art body shop and certified technicians perform high-quality repairs and paintwork on most vehicle makes and models. Victory Honda of Muncie. We're not just another car dealership.
Welcome back to the Cards Court here on the SportsLink Digital Radio Network. Griffin Leonard alongside Evan Stowell and our guest, Mr. Sidelines Ball State himself, Mr. Rob Calhoun. We talked before the break about how the season's going, some surprises, some people who have stepped up, but the real grind, as you called it, is the MAC schedule.
Absolutely.
And finding ways to win in conference. And for this team who's still learning to play together and some new guys stepping up in the starting lineup, how do they manage to get wins in Mid-American Conference play?
I think the number one thing is you have to be tough and you have to have great guard play in the MAC. So getting Bailey back will be a huge help. Jalen will have to probably be even more assertive than he has been so far, and we have to get more off the bench. I mean, there's got to be someone else who steps up, who gives you a third scorer. And then the bigs, I mean, they're going to run in, when you get into where you're playing the Akrons and the Kents, there's going to be some big physical play, and they have to be ready for that as well.
Well, I know a big question mark, and we talked about him earlier, but Bashir Jihad, how he was going to step up in the absence of Peyton Sparks, and he was a little, I don't know about weaker, but he just didn't play with as much physicality as Peyton did, and there were some question marks as to how he was going to adapt into a starting role as the 5. Where does he go from here as far as growing and being able to compete with those bigger guys on Akron and Kent?
I think he's there. I think, I don't know that it's just a toughness. It's also a mental toughness. He has to be willing to go down in there and really work and grind. And if he does those things, then I think the Cards can, definitely, I don't know about contend for a championship, but I think they can be in the upper 3 or 4 and have at least a puncher shot at, trying to do well.
When you look at the team right now, Would you say their struggles are on offense or defense? I mean, what's going to be the problem when they get into MAC play?
I think we're just lacking a scorer or two to really, so far if you look back, in some of our wins, we've had players have career days to get those wins. And if that player doesn't have that career day, we probably don't win that game. So unless we have another couple step up and chip in, you can't do it on individual effort. It has to be, not consistently anyway, it has to be a team going forward with one goal.
Yeah, well, and I know that obviously last year we talked about the transfers, and we lost 85-90% of our scoring.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there's definitely a period of learning and developing, and I think as the season progresses, we'll find those scores and we'll find avenues to get those points. And somebody we talked about earlier in the show was Trent Middleton Jr. stepping up in the game on Saturday, putting up 9 off the bench, and the kid's not afraid.
No, he's not. He's from Philadelphia. There's a lot of hardcore basketball that goes on in Philadelphia. So fear, I don't think, is anything. I think it's just learning what the college game is and how it differs. And another guy, his name's slipping me, starter this
Nathan
year.
Jones,
yeah. If he can look to shoot, although I know that's not his role right now, but in high school, he was pretty accomplished all the way around. So if he can chip in some, that's 2 more options that you have that might be enough to push you, over or get you closer to that edge where you need to be.
Yeah. Let's switch up the topic of conversation here a little bit. You as I guess an unofficial media member, so to speak, whatever
Totally
you want to call it.
Totally unprofessional as well.
But how did you, or why did you decide to start the Sidelines Ball State account? And what made you go that route?
Well, this is actually, it's odd, but it's a good story. I did the same thing for many, many years under my personal account. It was literally the same thing. And one day I just opened up an email, private message, and they're like, we have no one to run this Ball State account. Would you like to do it? And I'm like, I don't even know what Sidelines Sports is. I kind of still don't, It's just, whatever. And I'm like, well, if anybody's going to do it, I can probably do it, and I can probably be the best at it. So might as well go ahead and just throw that up there, and the guy maybe gives a little more validity to it because people, like you said, you are the sideline sports guy. Well, okay, but I'm still just Rob throwing out random, throwing out random thoughts and opinions and whatever. It's fun, something to do, hobby.
What's been the most rewarding part of it?
The most rewarding for me is when, like, the AD or the coach or something will like it or will send you a nice message saying thank you. And that's all I want out of it, and not even that I want or need that, but that, it feels good when people, that everyone is reading it, and it kind of gives you a little sense of responsibility too. It's like, I don't want to go out and like just totally kill these guys, but you want to keep it objective. You want to, people trust and value honesty. And if we all three sit down and watch a game together and we see us just play a terrible game, I don't want to be the guy that just sticks my head in the ground and says, well, it's okay because, no, we just played terrible. But in the same aspect, when we play well, I'm going to say, you know what, we did really well, and, this is what needs to happen. And, and again, it's all my opinion. I'm not a coach. I'm just a dude that likes Ball State.
Yeah, well, and it's important to get your honest opinions out there, and I think that the Ball State community and others in the Twitter/X community have been able to acknowledge that. I know Big Game Boomer inducted you as the rookie of the year for Ball State, which doesn't make any sense considering you've been around here quite a while.
That makes no sense at all. I've been doing stuff like this, and I used to write for 24/7. I've been doing stuff like this for 20, 25 years. So but hey, Big Game Boomer knows who I am. I don't know who Big Game Boomer is, but some of his lists are ridiculous. But I mean, if you younger guys like him, hey, more power to you.
Hey, I mean, they may be a little clickbait at times, but at the same time, he shouted SportsLink out a couple of times, so hopefully it's not completely clickbait.
No, yeah, take the good with the bad. All publicity is good publicity, as they say.
Amen to that. But as far as the platform that you have and that you've been able to develop, what are your goals with that?
Just keep promoting Ball State as much as I can. Help you guys. Throw your stuff out there. I mean, the Ball State Sidelines thing, it's fairly big, and for Ball State, it's one of the bigger ones, and I think it's one of the more accurate ones. It's not all just reposts, and it's there. I try to put a little bit of myself into it, but I mean, it's mainly just to help promote Ball State and try to be as positive as I can about it, and I try not just to do basketball or football. I try to include and talk about all sports. So hopefully I do a good job of it.
You mentioned it a little bit, how sometimes an AD or a player will like something or comment. But do you have any relationships with any people in the administrative roles here at Ball State?
I mean, I know them. I mean, after 25 years, you kind of get to know a little bit of everyone. I'm CVC member. So I know a lot of people. Am I personally great friends with any of them? No. But I mean, if I see them, they know I'm Rob and I know they're whoever, some of the coaches, I've coached their sons over the years in Metro football and different things like that. So yeah, there are personal relationships involved.
Just to wrap things up, where do you go from here? How do you continue to expand your platform and continue to provide Ball State with whatever news and notes they need?
I'm just going to keep doing what I do, and if I'm asked to do more, sometimes that does happen. Hey, will you throw this out there? Will you, I'm going to do that. But just basically keep riding the same wave, and, and that's the thing. I don't care if I have 5,000 followers or 2. I'm going to do it anyway because it's just what I do. So I've never been real caught up into how many or whatnot or any of that. It's just a fun way and a way I can give back to the community and Ball State.
Well, I know we're very thankful for what you do. I know I follow you on Twitter so that if I miss a bit of news, I know you're going to be there quote tweeting it and giving your opinion. I love it.
I'll back you up, and I appreciate what you guys do. Your stories are second to none. I know some people will throw out, Syracuse, Nah, it's Ball State. I think you guys are the best at what you do, and I appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate you right back. Thank you for joining us. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll hit you with PBP's keys and send you on your way. You're listening to the Cards Court on the SL Digital Radio Network, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie.
Hi, I'm Chris Taylor, Senior Director of Digital Sports Production and Ball State SportsLink, the nation's first 4-year academic digital sports production program. It's the intersection of sports and storytelling, where we're training the next generation of digital content producers. It's truly unique because a lot of schools have sports broadcasting and sports journalism, and while we have elements of both of those, our focus is on sports media production and the behind-the-scenes work. And I think that's what separates us at Ball State, because a lot of schools will teach students to learn production or live event streaming, but we're teaching storytelling, and that is producing long-form, layered feature stories where we can humanize our student athletes and our coaches and tell the story as to why they're playing their sport at Ball State. Anyone can produce or edit things that are flashy and look good, but can you tell a story? And at Ball State, I think we really teach that, and the success is evident.
Welcome back to the Cards Court on the SL Digital Radio Network. here with Evan Stowell. And, well, we had him. We might as well keep him around for a little bit longer, Mr. Rob Calhoun, a.k.a. Sidelines Ball State. Let's get you the PBP's Keys segment, 3 keys for both of these teams to unlock as they head into the new week to try to get some wins. Let's start with men's basketball, and the first one would just be to build some road confidence. You know, they're undefeated at home, haven't gotten a win on the road. That's got to change for some overall season success.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. If they want to be good this year, they're going to need to be able to win on the road. They obviously struggled so far this season on the road. They lost to Evansville, and then they also lost to Little Rock. So they definitely need to build some confidence. I don't think Detroit Mercy's an overly tough opponent. I think that this Ball State team should be able to compete with them.
Then over to the women's side, after a tough loss to Notre Dame, you have another big road test, or a road test in UConn, and I think the key there is don't get deterred by their play.
Yeah, I think Ball State, on the women's side, what they need to do is they just need to stay confident and realize that their non-conference schedule is really tough this year. They're playing UConn, they played St. Louis, they played Notre Dame, they're going to play Georgia and Pittsburgh. I mean, this is a tough non-conference schedule. They probably aren't going to string a lot of wins together here early in the season. What they need to do is realize that this is just a good opportunity for them to play tougher opponents so that when they get into MAC play, it'll just make them that much stronger.
And I agree. I mean, I think this non-conference schedule for the women will just set them up. I mean, Toledo's going to be the big key on, in division. I think they'll be ready for them.
And then our third key for both of these teams, you got to enforce yourself early and really set the tone in these games. Ball State in the Bellarmine game got out to a hot start on the men's side, and but for both of the squads, got to find a way to get ahead early and set the tone.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is to the growing part of it and the mental aspect of it. If they're mentally ready when they go out there, I think they'll be good to go.
Well, looking ahead at this week's games for both Ball State men's and women's, both teams hit the road on Wednesday. Women's basketball traveling to UConn and men's basketball to Detroit Mercy, and then a Sunday doubleheader with the women's basketball team facing the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky and Ball State playing at home against SIUE. You can catch that game on the SL Digital Radio Network with myself and Braden Carroll on the call. But that'll do it for this week's episode of The Cards Court. Another big thank you to co-hosts Evan Stowell and Rob Calhoun. But for the both of them, I'm Griffin Leonard saying so long. We'll see you next week here on The Cards Court, presented by Victory Honda of Muncie.
The Cards Court is hosted and produced by Griffin Leonard. Be sure to follow BSU Sports Link across social media for the best stories in Ball State sports. The Cards Court has been a production of Ball State Sports Link.